5 mistakes in one-point perspective. Hello, my dear creatives, and welcome to this new video on the channel. Let's talk about Her Majesty, one-point perspective, the mother of all other types of perspective. Yes, it's usually the very first type of perspective that beginners explore. It's simple, logical, perfect for sketching straightforward interior spaces. But precisely because it's the starting point, it's also where the most of the mistakes tend to happen. And I've noticed that the same issues appear again and again in the sketchers of beginners. So let's go through the most common ones so you can avoid them right from the start. Mistake number 1, placing the horizon line and the vanishing point on it too high or too low. So the horizon line represents the viewer's eye level, and its placement defines the entire perspective. If it is placed too high or too low in your drawing, the scene can feel distorted or unnatural. Visually, this is usually somewhere around the middle of your picture plane. So if you divide your sketch into 3 equal parts, a good horizon line placement is typically within the middle third, not too close to the top, not too close to the bottom like in the first 2 cases. So this range tends to produce the most harmonious and realistic results in interior perspective. The second one, using multiple vanishing points by mistake. In one-point perspective, all lines that recede into depth must lead to a single vanishing point on the horizon line. However, beginners sometimes simply out of inattention, sometimes simply from the lack of hand control, they start pulling lines toward different imaginary points, forgetting that this type of perspective has only one vanishing point. So this breaks the clarity and structural logic of the drawing, of course. And if it comes from the lack of hand control, just don't hesitate to use a ruler, especially in the beginning. It's far better to build a correct and clean construction with help than to reinforce inaccurate habits. Or check out my most popular video here on YouTube on how to train your hand, my top 10 exercises for architects, designers, and artists. I will leave the link in the description for you. Mistake number 3, incorrect scaling of objects in depth. Objects that are further away often end up being drawn either too large or too small, which disrupts the sense of realistic space. From the viewer's perspective, everything should gradually shrink in size as it moves away following the perspective grid. Now, on this sketch, this might actually look even quite charming, like a contemporary art installation filled with conceptual objects that resemble chairs. And that's great if your goal is to create contemporary art. But if you're aiming to sketch realistic interior spaces, understanding proportion and scale is essential. For example, on this sketch, what I'm drawing right now, the frontal chair is definitely far too big. It is simply out of scale, and it looks rather like an art installation or art object. And these 2 chairs, they are not aligned at all with each other and with the space they are in. So here we can see wrong use of scale. Now let's draw schematically how this room would look like if the objects, these chairs, would be more aligned with each other and with the room they are in. So let's work with the space. So you can see I start with a line starting from the vanishing point, and I align the height of the chairs. Let's say there are 2 chairs in a row and one opposite them, so everything is more aligned. Also, I would love to give you a pro tip on how to avoid this mistake, and this is usually what I teach in depth, step by step, in my online course Base on interior sketching with markers. So this is a wonderful technique. I love to teach my students on how to avoid this mistake. It is actually to begin with the side view profile projection of the object on the frontal wall, also called back wall of your sketch. let's say you're drawing this chair, start by projecting its correct height and width on the back wall, where the proportions are easier to control. Then, from the vanishing point, you can pull perspective lines forward into the space to define the depth of the chair. This gives your furniture a proper scale and helps it sit naturally in the room, both visually and structurally. Mistake number 4, tilting vertical and horizontal lines. Vertical lines should always remain upright, and horizontal lines, apart from those leading to the vanishing point, of course, must stay parallel to the top and bottom of the page. When elements like windows or doors lean to one side, the entire scene can feel unbalanced. I know that this mistake may seem almost too simple or obvious, and many people think they will never fall into it, yet in practice, what I see, it's one of the most frequent errors, even among attentive beginners. To avoid it, remember a simple rule. In one-point perspective, there are only 3 types of lines. These are strictly vertical lines, strictly horizontal lines, and lines that recede to the vanishing point. That's it. Of course, if you include more complex design elements like curved furniture or sculptural art pieces, they will follow their own logic. But for most architectural elements and furniture, sticking to these 3 types of lines will keep your sketch clean and clear. And last but not least, mistake number 5, I call floating furniture. It's when objects aren't grounded. This is a very common issue. The room might be drawn in correct perspective, but the furniture feels disconnected from the space, as if it's hovering slightly above the floor or sinking into it. In the majority of cases I've seen, it's hovering. It is as if the architecture and the objects inside it are living 2 separate lives. The cause is usually the same. The base of the furniture hasn't been carefully aligned with the floor plane. It is not enough to draw the walls in perspective. Each object in the room also needs to follow the same perspective logic and sit firmly on the ground. Using a perspective grid, it's also something that I teach in my online course base. It is the most effective way to solve this problem. It helps you place each leg, corner, or base of a furniture piece in a proper alignment with the floor. Pro tip on how to avoid this mistake. To check if your furniture feels grounded, lightly add a shadow underneath it. Shadows help reveal whether an object is truly sitting on the floor. If the sketch suddenly feels off after adding the shadow, it's a clue for you that the perspective or placement needs adjustment. So these were the 5 most common mistakes in one-point perspective I see beginners do. Of course, these are not all of them. To avoid these mistakes and learn how to create professional interior sketches from scratch, join my flagship online course base. The link is in the description. Check out the program, the sketches, and student reviews. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss my new videos. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.